Well, welcome back to MINDtalk, where we like to bridge the disconnect between what brain science knows and what people do. Well, what I'd like to address in this episode is something that we call social cohesion and something about the social brain. Now, I'll elaborate on these terms a little later on. Now, for the last 15 years, I have been working with individuals, both as a sparring partner and as a coach, helping them with their individual challenges and needs, get them past, get them to where they want to go. Now, some of them were actual marathons. They were difficult conversations to help them move forward. Others were just a walk in the park. There were more simple issues. But regardless of the complexity, at the end, however long it took, they got to where they wanted to go. Now, working with teams is something I've also been working with, but teams are much more demanding. So even the most complex issue that I was working with individuals sometimes paled in comparison with some of the challenges that happen when working with teams. Now, there are a lot of techniques and a lot of theories that people employ to try to build stronger, cohesive teams. Most of these, to some extent, are effective, but the challenge is unless the underlying or the underpinning problems are addressed, these teams will go back to their default behavior, which tends to be at some level dysfunctional. Now, the idea of moving a dysfunctional team to a functional team requires, I think, in my experience, a lot more. Now, when you teach people about the underpinnings of certain things, such as the social brain, and phenomena such as cognitive biases, now, a lot of professionals haven't actually even heard of these terms. And so making them aware of what they are can actually have a significant impact how people behave, how they move from dysfunctional to functional. Now, I work with a lot of professionals, and a lot of professionals tend to be very pragmatic, very, very concrete. They like concrete. Now, psychology, or teaching social psychology or psychological mechanisms, for a lot of people, this is kind of wishy-washy, soft science because it tends to be abstract. Now, I'm a big fan, a big supporter of psychology because psychological principles have grounding in fact. But what makes them even more important and very sort of hands-on, concrete, very, very real for a lot of professionals is that if you can teach the underlying mechanism of how the brain works, about the structures and the functions, but also specifically teaching people about cognitive biases as they apply to specific situations, it makes it much more real. It actually resonates with these professionals. Now, I think this is a very important key to include when working with teams. Brain. So what exactly is the social brain? Well, the social brain is just that, is that our brains evolved to connect with each other. Originally, before we called teams or groups, we were part of a tribe. 50 to 100,000 years ago, running around on the African savannah, we lived as tribes. We didn't have sharp claws or big teeth or what have you. And so what allowed us to survive on these harsh climes is the ability to come together, to share resources, to share our intellect, to share strategies. Being part of a tribe allows our brains to thrive. They literally grow. We actually have what's called neurogenesis. We actually have, neurons that grow because we have healthy functional relationships. Now, the social brain also works in the other way. So when we feel disconnected, when we feel apart from the group, when we feel we've been banished or ostracized from the group, this can have other repercussions where we actually lose brain cells. Our brain cells tend to actually wink out. Now, this leads to a concept called social pain and social reward. Now, depending if we are feeling social pain or social reward, this will have a complete influence on how we make decisions, how we communicate, how we interact with people, how we collaborate and cooperate. Now, social reward is exactly that. It is a reward we feel. It is a social emotion. So when I feel connected, when I feel in touch, when I feel secure, when I feel a sense of value and a contribution to the group, then I feel social reward. Now, on the other hand, when I feel social pain, well, social pain is just another word for negative emotions connected with relationships. Well, this is when I feel, as I've mentioned, disconnected, when I don't feel valued, when I feel ostracized or not part of the group, when I feel communication is not directly to me or communication tends to be vague. Now, social pain is just that. It is a form of pain. Now, research shows when you're looking at the functions of the brain, especially in a sort of an MRI, a magnetic resonance imaging, when they look at the function of the brain, when people feel sort of isolated or not part of the group, a part of the brain called the insula lights up. Now, the insula is part of the brain that allows us to have introspection when we feel our heartbeat or we can feel our breath inside of us. But the curious thing, that the discovery is that this social pain network is piggybacked, or it's linked directly to our physical pain. So what this shows us is that when I feel physical pain, my insula lights up. When I feel social rejection, which leads to social pain, the insula also lights up. So this shows us that evolution has favored our ability to connect with others. Is so important that when we start feeling a sense of social pain, that we start feeling our relationships are going south, that it forces us, it impels us to find corrective measures to correct that relationship, to rebuild it. Now, if I took an aspirin or I have a headache, well, that pain disappears for a while. Well, the same mechanism plays with social pain. If I take an aspirin, that social pain's going to go away for a while. That sense of rejection or disconnection, that goes away for a while. But unless we address the underlying issues of the relationship, privately or professionally, that pain will resurface. When I'm working with teams that are fragmenting, one of the things that stands out is social pain. When you talk to them on an individual level, you can hear their words, their thoughts. They talk about how they feel estranged, how they feel disconnected from the group, how the fragmentation is actually affecting the ability to cooperate and collaborate and to work, and specifically also to communicate.